So pleased to be joined by the woman who will be challenging Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's Championship at NXT No Mercy on Peacock from Denver on Sunday. It's Jaida Parker. Jaida, welcome to Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. How are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you? Thank you for having me.
I'm doing great. So glad you're here. You won the Gauntlet Eliminator match against a group of wrestlers who hadn't received shots at the NXT Women's Championship before. What does it mean to you to have earned this opportunity on an NXT Premium Live event at this point in your journey?
It means the absolute world to me because, as I said before in my interview last night, I've only been here for about a year and a half, almost 2 years. And to have this opportunity is life changing. It can be life changing. And it's meant the world to me because it's allowing me to see that my hard work is paying off. And I'm just excited for Sunday.
You came to WWE as part of the 2022 tryout in Dallas, not as part of the NIL program, but generally the idea of recruiting college athletes for WWE. What was that experience like for you, and what made you decide to pursue WWE?
That experience was different. It was so life-changing as well because I never knew my body could get sore in certain parts of my body that I was just like, what is going on? I've never hit the floor like that on purpose. You know what I'm saying? So I'm really not used to that. So making that transition was kind of mentally tough on me because I'm not used to being on the floor. In soccer, I would always hit people on the floor. Like I was really never on the ground. So having that and purposely throwing my body on it, that was the adjustment for me. But that experience was life-changing because they took me to Mania. I saw how the business actually works and like the insiders of it. And it just made me fall in love with the WWE, even though that was my first time being involved with them.
First time being involved, had you watched it at all going in or not really, or more casual or?
So I watched it when I was younger with my brother. It would be me and my grandfather and my brother all the time. I just didn't know what it was at the time because I was so young. So I knew about it because my brother would do the moves on me. So I knew what an RKO was before I knew what an RKO was. You know what I'm saying? So I really wasn't in the business like that when I was younger because I was so focused on like soccer and softball. But I'm getting into it now and I love it.
You've only been in the ring for a couple of years. Should people have known that you're a quick study? Like, I think it's obvious that you pick up some things fast, and seeing you in this spot this early, like, how do you kind of, come to grips with it?
I do pick up on things very quickly because I've grown up in that type of environment where it's either you sink or you swim, and it's made me the athlete and the WWE superstar that I am today because you need to pick up on things quick, and it helps me be coachable as well. It's just, I don't know, it's just ingrained in me to just learn things. I'm a very visual person, visual and hands-on person. So if I see it once or twice, I'm like, okay, let me just do it again, my turn with my hands on it. And that just helps me escalate in my journey.
And what's interesting to me when I talk to wrestlers too is that, like, I've talked to people who have been doing it for like 33 years who are like, yeah, I'm still picking things up as I learn too. So that's got to be cool too. Just to be able to always be picking up new things and put them into your arsenal and be able to change and adapt and stuff. You played varsity women's soccer at LSU, and you were part of the U.S. Under-17 team also. How does the commitment level of Division I sports compare or differ from the commitment level needed to be a WWE superstar?
Personally, I don't believe there's any difference because you have to be so committed to that sport. Like I studied and practiced my whole life for that sport. And a lot of professional wrestlers have done the same thing. It's just we came from different areas of life, but we met on the same path. So I don't think there's any difference with being focused and just learning that. So I don't think there's any difference at all. It's just helped me adapt to this a lot easier, if we're being honest.
I mean, I've covered Division I sports before, and I know, you talk to some of the athletes, it's like, that's a full-time job,
Yes.
really to be a D1 athlete, in addition to being a student really at the same time. And it's sort of probably a little bit of the same thing that you're experiencing now because you're learning and then you're also doing at the same time.
Exactly.
What's the Performance Center like as a place to train?
It's amazing because we have legends in there as coaches. One of my favorite producers and coaches, Norman Smiley. And before, when I didn't know who he was, I saw him on my tryout and everything, and just having him as my coach when I first got here changed my whole mindset of this business in general. And people always have like a helping hand. They're so nice. They're willing to help you if you're willing to learn and be coachable. And it's not like, oh, I know everything. No, I believe that if I'm not learning something new every day, that I'm doing something wrong. And he was the coach to really just, I don't know, I connected with him in a way where it's like he knows what he's talking about, because he wouldn't be here if he wasn't. And there's a lot of other coaches in there that are legends: Carino, Fit Finley, Terry Taylor, like all of them. So I just love that atmosphere, because I get to pick everybody else's brain and just take grains of salt of what they've taught me and bring it into my world.
What fascinates me about that answer is I think you're at least the fourth or fifth person who I've talked to who Norman Smiley is the first thing out of their mouth. And what's fascinating about Norman is, first of all, he's been everywhere. He's been to Japan. He's been to Mexico. He's wrestled in England. He's wrestled in WCW. He wrestled TNA actually for a brief amount of time too. But in the nature of his position, he's getting a lot of the beginners. So he pretty much has touched just about everybody's career that's come through WWE in one way or another over the course of, I guess, almost 2 decades he's been with them now. What about his coaching style makes him so effective? Is it his communication skills? Is it, like you said, the visualization?
It's the technicality that he has. He's so technical, and it's simple, but it's like, oh my gosh, you know what I'm saying? He's like the missing puzzle piece. I call him that like all the time, because he'll say one thing and you're like, no, that doesn't make sense. But when you actually do that one thing that he says, you're like, oh, okay, I get it. And he's such a natural heel. And he made me love being a heel, because I see how he is. And I'm just like, I want to have that in my work, because he's so professional with it. He's so technical with it. And it's like, to me, he's top of the top. And I just love learning from him.
And I'll just say, too, as a performer, he was one of my all-time favorite parts of Monday Nitro in the Monday Night Wars, with some of the little stuff. I don't know how much you've gotten to watch of him, of his active career, but he was a riot. But like, again, a phenomenal competitor at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
What is the competition like in NXT when you have that many high-level athletes and top-level pro athletes in one place, all with the same goals?
It's competitive, because you're in a position where everybody wants the same thing that you want. There's 1,000 other people that want what I want, and that just pushes me even more to work harder, to be like, okay, you may have this, but I'm gonna do this. I'm gonna always outwork you. I'm gonna always do this, because we can't be like this all the time. Like, someone has to step up. But I love it, because it brings out the competitive nature in me, and I'm already competitive. Growing up, I was already like that. So it just brings it out of me. And I love the atmosphere, because it allows me to be competitive, to be creative. I get to bounce off people with ideas and everything. So it's a very competitive but welcoming environment. So it's my favorite.
Did anything surprise you about pro wrestling or its fans?
The fans surprised me, actually, because the fans for soccer weren't really like the fans here. They're so dedicated. And women's soccer really wasn't, when I was growing up, it really wasn't celebrated, I guess I would say that. But the fans here are so like hands-on, and they actually love us or they hate us. You know what I'm saying? And what surprised me the most about the business was the creativity and it's the creativity part about it, because I have a big imagination, and it allows me to just be me and not think inside of a box. I can always think outside of a box and not be pigeonholed to what my creative ideas can be, because they allow us to do anything. All you got to do is just ask. What's the worst thing they can say is like, no. You just keep going.
What have been some of the things that have gone into what your character has become? What's that creative process been like as you've kind of learned, who Jaida Parker is, and as Jaida Parker has, started out on Level Up, moved on to NXT on TV quite regularly with the OTM group also.
It's been amazing, because I'm finding out me more when I find out who Jaida Parker is, because she's really just me times 1,000, and she's me if society didn't have so many like pigeonholed. I didn't say that right. Jaida Parker is me if I didn't care what other people thought.
Interesting.
And it's just allowing me to grow and become more independent, more confident in who I am, because Jaida Parker, is confident as hell. She don't care what nobody else says, and that's what I've always wanted to be when I was younger. But it's like, oh well, you can't do that, you can't do this. Who finna tell that to Jaida Parker? Nobody. So that's just been the creative process about that.
Well, it's certainly connecting and jumping off the screen. I'll say that, and it's been a real pleasure to watch the growth as it's gone on. What's the most important thing for you to know as you moved into pro wrestling? Was there anything particularly that stood out to you of just this is something everybody should know when they get into this? I know you mentioned before kind of like the shock of taking, of throwing yourself around, but is there any kind of helpful hint that you kind of learned along the way where it was like, all right, this is clicking for me now?
It's not, I said it before, it's really not caring what other people think, because you will feel like the dumbest person when you're doing, because you feel so silly doing things, but you're like, no, this is actually real. To us, it's real. So me learning how to properly handle myself in the ring and to properly talk to people, because it's hard, like being new to this when people have been in this for like 13, 14 years. They're so used to this level when I'm not used to it. So like I'm a new one coming in here, and all I can say is that I just love what I do, and like it's been fun. But the hardest part has been learning how to adjust mentally with all of it, because there's mental things like in sports, like I had mental issues, and like you go through mental blocks, but this one you have to keep going, because if not, time will always pass you by. And it's like, okay, that happened, can't worry about it now, it happened 5 minutes ago, what are you going to do now in these next 5 minutes, what are you going to do in these next 10 minutes, if that makes sense.
Yeah, and it's interesting too because wrestling's kind of always forward. Also, there's no, in soccer or whatever you're doing, like there's usually a season and a championship, and there's always some new. There's goals in wrestling too, but it just really never stops. You just have to keep going, whether
Yeah.
whether you're going to get left behind or not. So, anyone as you've gone through, your career so far, anyone, I mentioned Norman before, going back and watching his stuff. Anybody else whose matches you went back and watched who you maybe weren't familiar with before, who were recommended to you as somebody to watch the work of?
They always tell us to watch Shawn Michaels. If you really want to learn how to sell and be like put in a class for selling, you watch Shawn Michaels, because that man is ridiculous. You understand why he was so successful, because of the way that he worked in that ring and the way that he controlled the crowd. Just watching him and like seeing that's what the business is about, because now he's our boss, you know what I'm saying? But he's a legend in himself. So watching his matches have allowed me to work with somebody and put their stuff over, just like they're putting my stuff over, with the selling wise and everything, because I feel like that's only right. But Shawn Michaels, Triple H, even Rhea, I know she isn't like that old and everything, but old matches like that, Alicia Fox, like all of them, even China sometimes, like if you really want to be like that beast in the ring, China, her, like just real talented people and legends that deserve to be called legends because they put in the work to do it.
It always makes me smile when I hear Shawn Michaels talk about the NXT talent, because it seems like he is such a big fan of what all of you are doing, and it comes out in the way that he talks about it and stuff too. And it's got to be so great to have him there. I mean, as great of a performer as he was, you can go to him and get pointers, or hey, what did you think of my match? What is that like for you to have that access to somebody like that?
To somebody like him, like Matt Bloom, Terry Taylor, Fit Finley, it's amazing, because a lot of people can't say that they've worked with them before, that they've even had a conversation with them before. And to have their feedback or like their input means a lot to me, because I'm still learning in this business. I'm learning every day, just like everybody else is. But to have their input it means a lot, because they see that I care, and I see what like they care as well, because they want to see me great and I want to see myself great, and they see things in me that I haven't seen in myself yet, and I'm just like, okay, I want to be able to look at myself the way they see me, with the all the potential in the world. But it's like I have to find it, and hearing that from them is just reassuring, and I'm knowing like I'm going down the right path.
This year, 2024, has been the year of your wrestling career. You've made some big moves in. What was the experience like first being in the street fight with Michin and also being in the ladder match for the NXT first Women's North American Championship? Those both had to be a little bit different.
They're completely different. It wasn't different because I still had to deal with Michin in that ladder match. And to this day, I say that she's the reason why, like, I wasn't able to climb the ladder. Like, me and her still got beef. But that ladder match was insane to me, like, in the best way possible, because us 6 women in there, we set history. And again, Kalani Jordan won it, and she deserved to win it. But we all set history in there because that is the first women's North American title that NXT has ever had, or WWE in general has ever had, that I know of.
Yep.
Correct me if I'm wrong. But that match was just so much fun. It was life-changing. I always say that. It was so life-changing because that was my first ladder match. So I'm like, ooh, your girl don't like heights like that unless it's on a roller coaster. And I got to sit here and set this ladder up and climb it and be 10 feet tall in the air. No, that's a long drop down for me. So that was the hard thing about it. But it was a lot of fun because we played our parts. And I wouldn't have wanted to do it with another group of girls besides them. But for the street fight with Michin, that was a butt whooping waiting to come, because me and her, we butt heads for a little bit. And I know sometimes we don't see eye to eye, but she had to see it from my point of view. And she ended up doing it because your girl got the dub. But it took a lot out of me. It did, because game recognized game with Michin, and she understands. And she's a hell of a competitor, but I'm just glad we had that street fight because she brought it out of me. She brought, like, the beast out of Jaida Parker. I'll give her that.
Very nice. NXT is going to be in some pretty significant venues for the kickoff on CW in early October. How excited is everybody at NXT to get to those?
Oh, we're so excited. And I know it's October 1st because that's going to be the kickoff for everything. It's crazy. I can't really speak much because I've only been here for like a year and a half, and I know they've been on USA for a while and everything, but seeing the transition and seeing how everybody is so excited to be on the CW and to just travel with it is, I don't want to say life-changing because I said it like 4 times, but it's exciting. It is so exciting, and I can tell, like, people are really hyped about it, especially because I know we're going to Chicago, I believe. Yep. So we have a lot of people from Chicago and everything with CM Punk. I know Randy's going to be there, so I'm just really excited for those that are going to be able to perform there.
Yeah, NXT is one of my favorite shows to watch every week right now. So I've really been enjoying the presentation quite a bit for a while. We're going to move on to something we call the 3 count now. It's going to be 3 quick questions and your answers. So I understand they do combines for the talent at the WWE PC. Who would win a combine for the PC coaching staff and why?
I'd have to say, ooh, that's a hard one. You put me on the spot. Probably Oni Gerard, because he's very athletic and he's still, a little closer to our age, and they're a little older, so I don't know how well I'm just trying to give them the benefit of the doubt. But all in all, I think Oni would.
Yeah, he was always one of my favorites in NXT too. Yeah. I really loved watching him. Second question. What does that dance or strut you do on the way to the ring mean to you?
So because I went to LSU, I was there for 5.5 years, and my best friend is from New Orleans. And I was in New Orleans so many times, like, throughout the years, and it's called the Beanie Weenie. When I first saw it, I was like, oh, that's smooth. Like, I like it. And I always did it, like, when we would go out and everything. And I heard my music for the first time, and I was like, oh, I can do it to this. And it caught on. And as long as I catch that beat, like, I'm fine. I'm going to hit it at some point. I can hit it at any point, but I'm going to make sure it's in the entrance. Everybody asked me, and I was like, it's called the Beanie Weenie. So
nice. And now the camera's got to know where it's going to be exactly too.
Right,
So that's fun. And then just the last question: what are the long-term goals in the career of Jaida Parker?
Long-term right now is longevity. I just want to be able to make my career last. Obviously, my goals are, if I say the NXT championship doesn't work out, I have my eyes on the North American championship. I have my eyes main roster. Like, it's always something there I'm going to have my eyes on. And I have plenty of time to achieve all of that. So right now it's just focusing on the NXT championship. If or when that works out, who knows, by God's grace, hopefully it does. But if it doesn't, I'm going to sit here and bust my ass and make sure I get my next title shot, wherever it is or whoever it's with. I'm going to make sure like Jaida Parker is a household name.
Very good. Jaida Parker versus Roxanne Perez for the NXT Women's Championship, NXT No Mercy on Peacock from Denver this Sunday. Jaida Parker, what a pleasure. Thank you so much for joining me today on Under the Ring Pro Wrestling Conversations. I've really enjoyed this, and best of luck to you in everything you're doing.
Thank you so much. I appreciate you.
Thank you.